the jobs that we work on at research in Bangalore are handed down from our Warren office, we have failed. We have to meet the career goals and aspirations of the people in Bangalore just as much as the people in Warren. And so we want to create a center of excellence there, world class. To do that, they have to know I have the same requirement for them as I do for my people in Warren. You have to know your customer's business as well as they do. You have to be able to know what is it that keeps them up at night, what are they worried about, what are the big hitters. And that should drive you in terms of your research agenda. So integration within the R&D organization as well as within the customers within General Motors whom we work with. And then we have to provide a clear career development path. This is the difficult thing. This is the sustainability. We don't want to develop a revolving door in Bangalore where we have people leave after 2 or 3 years. We want it to be a place where highly gifted, educated researchers can come and develop and grow their careers over a period of years, just as we do in Warren. And that's what we want to do in any of our science labs that we develop worldwide. We want to create this global network, this global node, multi-node network. So those are the challenges. The opportunities, identification of new technologies. There is an advantage, of course, to not being in Detroit when you're working for the auto industry, or being in Stuttgart, or being in Tokyo. You can think differently. You can think without the walls that have been built up over 100 years of corporate culture in those car centers of the world. The future of the automobile, in large part, is going to be directed by electronics, as it appears today. Okay? There's got to be a lot of fresh new thinking that comes into play. And so that's an opportunity for us as we globalize our R&D. More experimental type work. There has to be an element of creativity and fundamental experimental, big picture type, long-term element of our research. If that's all we do, then we fail. If we don't do any of that, then we fail. The difficulty is striking that balance. But certainly there's an opportunity for more experimental type work when you open up a new laboratory, wherever it may be, and if you get in good talented people. Integration into the product and processes quicker. One of my goals is to not only have my team here in India, in the research team, develop technologies that are integrated into our company worldwide, but specifically for the Asia-Pacific market. Not just India, but for the Asia-Pacific market. Because of the fast growth that's happening in this market, I anticipate that over the next 25 years, a lot of the new technology growth is going to be happening here. And new technology introduction in the automotive market is going to be happening here, not in North America or in Europe, as has traditionally been the case. That in and of itself is an argument to have a research facility, an engineering facility here. New thinking, as I indicated, and the result, if we play our cards right, if we work hard at it, if we fight some of the tough battles and address the issues, the result can be a global, flexible manufacturing to meet our global market demands. We hope that this will give us a competitive advantage. It's not easy. It's a hard thing to do. Many, many companies have tried this and are working on it now. It is the wave of today and the wave of the future. It is the flattening of the world. But there are many, many barriers and challenges that present themselves to us. I've tried to identify some of the key ones for you. I hope through this talk I've been able to scope out what our vision is for globalizing technology and how India, we feel, is a critical component and player in that overall global vision. For we sincerely believe that. I do anyway. And again, why do we do this? For the reasons I mentioned, and the long run is to give General Motors a competitive advantage as an innovator, as a technology and market leader in the global automotive marketplace. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
I'm Sanjay Gupta from National Institute of Fashion Technology. This is just an information-seeking question. Over 100 components in a car are made of textile materials. And in fact, in every aspect of it, including the seat covers, a lot of research is going on about making it more relaxing, stress-friendly, and all those things. Is any of your labs research on these aspects, or you take what the suppliers give you?
No, we work, that's a very good question. In many important aspects, we would refer to that as the driver or human interface with the vehicle. We work either internally, we have separate work going on in our labs in that arena, or, where appropriate, with some of our key suppliers in that. We have to change our relationship in many ways with our key suppliers globally, not only to help us develop globally, but to help us develop technologies. In the one of the slides I presented where I tried to illustrate the partnerships and the alliances, the point I wanted to get across there is that we're not just GM building everything internally anymore. We're very much a networked company among our own employees and our own facilities globally, but also among our whole family of suppliers. And we are working with our suppliers in a much different way, and we have to, in order to develop low-cost, efficient, good solutions, great solutions for our cars, no matter which market they play in. Yes, yeah, excellent question. Another question.
Jeff, my name is Srikant. I'm a faculty at ICFA Business School. Yes. I've got two questions for you. Question number one is, China is the manufacturing capital of the world, and GM has a leading market share in Chinese market. And Indian manufacturing has also come up over time, and we are also very competitive manufacturing for the same GM in India. I would like to know from you what would be the differences between Chinese manufacturing competitiveness for GM in China and accordingly for India too, and what we need to learn to probably catch up in a decade with China. This is question number one. Question number two is some role of Delphi for GM, and what's the state of Delphi today? Thank you.
The second question, I didn't catch the second question.
Second question is Delphi.
Yes.
Yeah, the role of Delphi for GM
Okay.
in the past and today. Thank you.
Okay. Let me address that one first. And just my own personal perspective is, you know, we own a considerable share of stock in Delphi. Delphi is not going away when we sold them off. That was not the intent. The intent was to make them more competitive, to make us more competitive. We do, and to open up other supplier opportunities for us. Delphi is a long, critical supplier customer for us. They, in China in particular, have been developing with us a lot of the supply base necessary to provide our manufacturing capacity necessary to meet the market demands in China, but that's also happening globally. So Delphi is a very, very important supplier in our overall supplier network, absolutely. And plus, if you look at Delphi's record, after we spun them off in '98, they have continued to develop a lot of patent technology, of advanced engineering technology. So they're a very good partner in that regard. To your first question, the differences in Chinese manufacturing versus India manufacturing in the automotive industry, well, that's an extremely tough question. Because, you know, when we started in the Chinese market, the quality was not there. We were looking at as high as 2,000 or higher defects per 100 vehicles. The quality in the Chinese manufacturing market was atrocious to begin with. But it's a remarkable story that really hasn't been written about is how quickly the Chinese manufacturing, at least our branch of Chinese manufacturing, our JV with SAIC, SGM in Shanghai, has improved their quality to where now it is near world class. That is amazing. That same thing has to happen here in India, and I believe is happening. The market, I would just characterize this, The market, it appears to me, the market in China is a bit different and easier to address than in India. I think the Indian market is more difficult because of demographics and geographic differences and the variety of needs for vehicles. Is a much tougher challenge that we have in India. You can just tell by looking at the variety of vehicles out on the road. In China, our growth, of course, has been in the urban areas, and those are pretty easy to identify, and there's been a relatively easy, I don't want to offend our friends or my colleagues in China, but it's been a relatively easier transition in developing product in China. We still have a lot to learn. China, what's been happening also, I'll try and address your question. Where we went into China, if you notice the vehicles we went into China with, which were more of the high-end vehicles. And so there was a higher value content, more money spent on the quality issue. Where we're entering the market or developing the market in India, we hope we move up on the branch in terms of higher-end vehicles in India, of course, but also in the market of, where the big market is in the lower cost, highly efficient vehicles. And this is where we hope our partners at Daewoo, whom we own, and our own internal knowledge that we've been developing will help us. So it's a different manufacturing process. It's than what we're trying to do in India than what we did in China. China's higher volume, a lot more higher-end vehicles. India is not quite as high-end vehicles, although I'm sure that's going to change, but more efficient manufacturing. I'm constantly impressed when I visit the Halol plant in terms of how efficient the manufacturing process is at Halol. This is one of the lessons, by the way, of globalization is the knowledge should not flow just from home office to places like Halol. There's a lot we should and could learn by how manufacturing is approached in our Halol facility. And that's true globalization when we can accomplish that. So it's a complicated answer to your question, but your question is not an easy one. That's a difficult question. Yes? One more question? Or are we done?
8 years old. I've been there since its beginning. Before I go forward, I just want to thank the organizers of this conference for giving me a chance. Actually, it is a very humbling experience to be along with the rest of the members. And I hope that whatever I have to say comes up to your expectations. This project came out of a grant which was given to us by MHRD. And the data was collected sometime during last year. Indore happens to be close to, actually Pithampur happens to be close to Indore, which is a pretty respectable auto hub with almost all major houses present. In fact, GM's Tavera, its engines are supplied from HM's unit, which is located in Pithampur. Also it has iShare, also it has Bridgestone's only unit, L&T, and so on. This is a very natural choice if somebody wants to study supply chains in India and wants to pick up an industry. This is a very natural choice, and we chose that topic. Now, just some motivation. I think this data already, Professor Iyer and the others have given it to you. This is coming from ECMA's various publications. I will just run through it. It's a long presentation. Also, we are running late. So basically, auto component industry is going through huge evolutions, and the exports and everything are on the verge of exploding, and it is a very interesting sector to study. Just some things which is there, and this has already come out from some other studies. Even though OEMs, you see a lot of best practices have come in the form of Koreans and other manufacturers, in auto component industry, particularly when you go at different tiers, the adoption of practices is not so uniformly present. And in fact, as you go further away from the main tiers, as you go to tier 2, tier 3, they are in a very, very, you can call primitive, or you can call post-91 kind of stage. in this study, we really wanted to see across the spectrum, not just at OEM or not just at tier 1, but across the spectrum, what is happening. So this is really a temperature-taking exercise of what is happening in regard to supply chain management in auto component industry across the spectrum. Now, the motive for this comes from the relationship which we all go through in Supply Chain 101, presented first by Professor Fisher, that there is a relationship between uncertainty and responsiveness, later extended by Lee to demand uncertainty also. And it is pretty much like this, that if you're in an environment where you face a lot of high uncertainty, which could be either through demand or through supply, then you are expected to design a responsive supply chain. And if you are in a low uncertainty environment, then your chain will be more efficient. This is a very standard thing. Now, what we wanted to do was see if the companies which are in this sector, they are following this. Are they in, or if they are, then how far removed they are from, and also their responsiveness. How much is the demand component and how much is the supply component